Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg, and this is episode 78. It is U.S. Open week. It cannot get any better than that. Oh, wait, it can, because we're at Pebble Beach this year, which means the U.S. Open is in prime time on the East Coast. Are you kidding me? You know what that means? You can play golf during the day, you can watch golf on TV at night, and you don't miss a thing. And by the way, just a helpful tip for you guys out there, this would be a great time to get some flowers for the wife or the girlfriend, because this is definitely a weekend that will test a relationship. Before we get to this week's episode, make sure you head over to our Instagram page right now. You can find it at the Back of the Range podcast. The reason I say that, we're running a giveaway. We're going to send a winner one of our new trucker hats, some golf tees, a towel, and a U.S. Open bag tag from our friends at the USGA and Seamus Golf. So make sure you enter the contest before the first round starts. Super easy. You just choose the guest of the Back of the Range that is going to finish highest at the U.S. Open. You have guys like Victor Hovland and Devin Bling, the U.S. Mid-Am champions, Kevin O'Connell, Stuart Hagestad, and Matt Parziale, as well as the new national champion, Brandon Wu, as well as Colin Morikawa. So you pick the winner there, enter the final score of the champion as a tiebreaker, and who knows, you might win some free swag from the Back of the Range. Before we get to this week's episode, I recorded some fantastic episodes last week. I cannot wait to bring them to you. Christopher Ventura, former national champion at Oklahoma State. He just had a great finish at the Web.com event. Also spoke with a great amateur named Mike Finster. He qualified for 4 U.S. Senior Opens in a row. Awesome guy, awesome stories. So a lot of great episodes coming your way. Don't forget to follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All the information can be found at thebackoftherange.com. And as always, please continue to leave reviews in Apple Podcast. If you're on social media, post that review. I'll go ahead and send you something for free. Just my way of saying thank you for listening to the Back of the Range. So, this week, golf fans all over the world are watching the best players on the planet compete in the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. You know who else is watching? A lot of professional golfers. Players on the PGA Tour are forced to watch from their couches just like the rest of us. So are players that play on the web or the LatinoAmerica Tour or in Canada. It's a tough road to make it to the PGA Tour and especially to play in majors. So while everyone's focusing on the elite players and listening to their pre-round interviews and their post-round wrap-ups, I thought it might be interesting to share an episode that reminds everyone just how hard it is to make it to the show. Our guest this week is Blair Hamilton, a native of Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Blair represented his country on the Canadian national team both as a men's amateur and as a junior. He was an All-American at the University of Houston, he's competed on the Mackenzie Tour, and he currently plays on the LatinoAmerica Tour. We talked about his amateur days, grinding it out on the developmental tours, and he shared some incredible tales about what it really takes to make it and how this game can beat you down at times. This is an excellent episode for amateurs thinking about turning pro, guys that are chasing the dream on all the developmental tours all over the world, and it really puts things in perspective for us golf fans. For every Max Homa and Corey Connors that burst into the spotlight, there are guys like Blair Hamilton that are risking it all just to get a chance to compete on the PGA Tour. So let's get started. Blair, thanks for the time, and welcome to the Back of the Range. Blair, how you doing?
Ben, I'm doing good, man. Thanks so much for having me on. You know, working on a few things, but I'm glad to be chatting with you today.
Well, I love the story of how we actually first connected, and of course, this only happens in 2019, or I should say, it only happens during the social media era. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it's obviously right around the Waste Management Open time. You reach out on Instagram, and I'll go ahead and let you tell the initial part of the story, then I'll jump in.
So I think you know, Back of the Range podcast might have followed me on Instagram or something, and then I kept on seeing the little hits from podcasts, and I saw guys that I knew going on, and I thought it was pretty cool. And you know, I've taken an interest into podcasts, and I like to talk. So flat out, I just kind of sent you a message out of the blue saying, "Hey, man, do you have any interest in talking to a guy that's been playing on the Latin Tour?" And I want to say this is, I don't know, maybe a day or two before the Monday qualifier for the waist. But
this is the night before. This is a Sunday night, the night before, and I'm like,
night before.
It was the night before. I'm like, yeah, dude, that'd be great. I haven't had anyone on that's played the Latin America tour, and yeah, I'm like, what's your schedule look like this coming week? And you're like, well, I got this whole, we got the waste management. I got the waste management Monday queue tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, well, shit, dude, stop talking to me. Go get some rest and good luck tomorrow. And and I'm like, all right, mojo activated, which is, anyone that's on the pod or has interest in the pod or supports the pod, we send good luck. And I'm like, all right, cool. And sure enough, I check the scores the next day, and you just hang a 65 early, and it would have been lovely, but this wasn't even a Monday qualifier. It turned into a Monday/Tuesday qualifier, didn't it?
Yeah, you know what? So I think I was off in one of the first 3 or 4 groups, something like that. And, I played pretty decent, put up a little 65. But when I come in, Max Homa's already shot 65. And I'm like, okay, well, there's like 120 guys in this field or something like that. Maybe 20 of us are in. So I got 100 guys to wait out. So just kind of posted up in the clubhouse, and, for whatever reason, the 65 just kind of kept hanging in there. I think David Hearn came in kind of towards the early part of the afternoon wave of 65. So there's 3 of us. There's only 3 spots. And, so I started kind of warming up later on in the day, kind of anticipating a playoff.
Yeah.
And then Nick Hardy came in one of the last, I don't know, maybe like 5 groups or something like that with a 65. So then, there was 4 of us for 3 spots. And so now we're looking at a for sure playoff. Nobody else came in lower. But by the time everybody had finished, it was too dark. So like, okay, guys, meet back here. I think it was like 8 a.m. or something like that for a playoff Tuesday morning. So we go home and sleep on the playoff, which I'd done that before actually in the USAM way back in, I think, 16 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, we're going to talk about that one. Yeah, that's another one I want to talk about.
Oh yeah. So anyways, so go to bed, wake up, and honestly, the playoff wasn't anything too dramatic. Max, David, and I all made par, and Nick wound up making a bogey. So it only did go 1 hole. But that was a pretty cool moment. All of a sudden you're going from, sitting around the day before, not knowing what's going to happen, and then sleeping on a playoff, pretty nervous, and then boom, you're in the show, and not just any tournament, you're in the waste management, which is
you're in the craziest PGA Tour event on the schedule, and you get into that. Well, I definitely want to ask about that week and that experience, and not just playing in a PGA Tour event, which you've done in the past. And we'll explain how you were playing in previous PGA Tour events, but I'm very fascinated on what it actually looks like for a Monday qualifier, and how different that is than just getting to a tournament as a regular card-carrying PGA Tour member where you can prep for it. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot of what's going on with you, but I wanted to, as we always do, give our listeners a little bit of backstory of how you got into the game, where you played your amateur golf, your junior golf. You mentioned Burlington, Ontario, Canada. I wanted to hit on that. So briefly, talk to me about why you're playing golf and not playing hockey. Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry, dude. That's awful. Why did I do that?
If I'd had my way, I would have been playing hockey, but I was too small and didn't like getting hit, so it's kind of a bad combination to be a hockey player.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
It's not gonna pan out. But yeah, so I got into the game when I was 11 years old. My dad was a pilot growing up, and the company he worked for at the time they had sister companies over in the UK, so they'd send pilots to help each other out in the busy season. So in the summer, the Canadian pilots would go over, and if you went for more than 6 weeks, family got to go over for a free visit. So I'm 11 years old, go over to Scotland, and just outside of Glasgow, and the place he was staying was right on a golf course. Old Ran Furley is the name of the club. And, you know, when you're 11 years old and you're in a farm town of Scotland, surrounded by cows and a golf course, you know, really only have one option to do is go play golf. And, you know, I'm a little kid, want to hang out with dad. So
sure,
that's what I did. And, you know, naturally had a bit of a knack for it. But, you know, my dad had taken me to the driving range when I was young, but never really got into it. I wanted to be in the NHL just like every other Canadian kid.
Nice.
But, you know, so I go there, and we actually did a trip to St. Andrews. We didn't play, but, you know, got the picture on the bridge and went to the old Tom Morris golf shop. And, you know, honestly just fell in love with the game. I came back, and my home golf course where I grew up playing is called Hidden Lake Golf Club in Burlington.
Okay.
And they had this program called the Yogi program. So they would hire kids that were between, you know, 12 and 16. And what you would do is you'd work like 2 shifts a week. The shifts were like 3 or 4 hours long. You'd pick up range balls on the driving range and change garbages and do all the stuff nobody really wants to do. But that earned you a free junior membership. So I live 5 minutes door to door from Hidden Lake. So I just started playing all the time. And the nice thing about with that program was there's other kids to play with. So I was, you know, flash forward, you know, from being 12, all of a sudden, you know, I guess actually I'm only like 13 or I don't know. How old are you when you're in grade 8? 13 maybe?
Yeah. Something like that. Sure.
Something like that. So, you know, I got my dad, he would wake up early, take me to the driving range. I would come back. He'd drop me off at school. I'd walk home from school at lunch, open up a net, and to my mother's dismay, hit golf balls into a net in our living room, which every once in a while I'd, you know, flash one right through and put a nice dent in the wall. She was not a fan of that.
Probably not.
But no, probably not. And then I'd go back to school, come back. My mom would come home. You know, she works just down the road. She would drive me up to the golf course. I'd be there until dark. Someone would pick me up, and I'd come home, go to bed, and wake up early, go to the range again. So I was a golf nerd, really. I became obsessed with the game. So early on, I kind of got it in my mind that I want to go to the U.S. on a golf scholarship. And I got linked up with my coach now, Ralph Bauer, when I want to say 14, 15, something like that. And, you know, he really helped me, you know, take my game to the next level. You know, I'd had other coaches along the way, guys like John White, Frank Eason, and, you know, they helped me out, but Ralph really helped take my game to the next level. And by the time I was 17, I earned my spot onto the Canadian junior team, which was a team of like 4 guys, the best 4 Canadian junior golfers, and got to go and play in the Junior World Cup in Japan and play in some other pretty cool events. Earned a golf scholarship to the University of Houston.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. You know, U of H has won 16 national championships. You know, historically, we are a absolute powerhouse golf program. Dave Williams was the coach, and you know, it was a pretty easy sell for me. They brought me down from Canada to Houston in like February, March, took me to a nice steak dinner, showed me the PGA Tour golf course, offered me a scholarship. And, you know, how do you say no to that, right?
I mean, also just, you know, I would imagine just coming down from Canada and seeing the weather, seeing the facilities, and just changing your changing your surroundings. I would imagine just had to be a dream come true. What was kind of one of the culture shocks that you experienced coming from Canada to Houston?
You know, I would say just a little bit of the Texas culture. I mean, first of all, I love Texas. Texas is a great place. People are amazing. It's a little more buttoned up than Canada for sure.
Okay.
You know, everyone kind of says, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, et cetera, et cetera. In Canada, I mean, you call someone sir or ma'am, and they're like, "What, do you think I'm old?" You know, it's nice. A little different. It's a little bit of a different culture. You know, I really think music will help shape a culture. So it's pretty heavy country music influence in Texas in general, which is fine. You know, it's not my cup of tea, but it's fine. And so I think, just the whole southern, I mean, Texas isn't like, it is the South, but Texas is its own place. It's almost like it's like another country. It's awesome. But it really took me, I would say, 6 months to kind of get established in the way things work. Everyone has a little bit different mindset than Canada. I mean, Texas and Canada are pretty far apart. But once I got my feet on the ground, kind of maybe second semester of my freshman year, in large part thanks to the coaches, Chris Hill, he was a Canadian, our assistant coach at the time. So he knew what I was going through, and he was pretty hard on me, but I needed it. And, it was good for me.
Sure.
I honestly didn't play a ton my first 2 years. One, because we were pretty good. I think my sophomore year, we wound up being ranked 8th. Something kind of happened. I remember I went to the Jones Cup in, I want to say
Sea
maybe
Island,
20.
right?
Yeah, that place is a bear. Ocean Forest, man. What a great golf course, great tournament. And just got my lunch handed to me. Like, played so bad it was a joke. I think I probably beat like 3 people. And my college coach picked me up from the airport, and I just looked at him like, dude, like, I got to get better. This is a joke. Like, I can't beat anybody. So we spent, a couple months working really, really hard and changing a few things in my golf game and my setup. And that semester I won a couple times. I won the Border Olympics, which was my first college win. And then I won NCAA regionals in Lubbock, Texas.
Yep.
Which was cool. I wound up being an All-American that year, my junior year, and had a pretty decent summer. Some good amateur finishes, and wound up playing in the Canadian Open and tying for low amateur there. So it was a big learning experience through college. And then my senior year, I kept on playing all right, and I was part of the Canadian men's amateur team at that point. The first year, there was only 2 of us on it, Austin Conley and myself. Started out with Corey Connors on it, but he turned pro right after playing in the Masters. And, kind of all through college. And then that, being part of the Canadian men's team, led me into being a professional. I turned pro in 2016. I went to Q school for the first time, and it's been about 2.5 years now of
playing professional golf,
grinding away. Yeah, exactly.
So let me back up and hit on a couple of things. I'm very curious. You mentioned you go play the Jones Cup, and for lack of a better term, you kind of hit rock bottom, go to your coach, and you guys work on changing things. Just to kind of communicate that to listeners that are trying to work on their game, trying to get better, how deep did you go in rebuilding your swing, and what was that process like as far as, is it all playing? Is it practicing? Is it drills? Like, you're a scholarship player, and then you scrap things. Like, what did that look like, and what were some of the routines and practice schedules that you were on to kind of rebuild your game and your confidence?
Yeah, it's not like we pulled out the shotgun and just blew it up and started fresh. I had some things in my setup. If we're gonna get technical, like my right arm was super hyperextended, and it got me closed, and I would just hit these beat down pull cuts, and I was really like a one-dimensional player. And if I went to a golf course where you could hit a sweet, very steep beat down pull cut, I could compete, and my short game was good enough. I could make some birdies, and if I got hot, I'd probably play pretty good. But God forbid we go to a dog leg left with a tree off the tee. I mean, I'm shaking in my boots. Like, what do you do then? So kind of going to a place like Ocean Forest made me realize, okay, I need to be able to hit the ball both ways. I've got to be able to hit, shots that start on line and hold their line. And, Coach Dismuke and Ralph Bauer, we were like, okay, so where are we now? Looked at a lot of video, and then kind of stacked it up against some of the best players in the world, some of the best ball strikers, and said, okay, what am I doing? What are they doing? What do I have to change to get to that point? And, we flat out devised a plan, and it was, I'd get up early. I'd be at practice before other guys. And, I'd spend the first, 45 minutes in a lesson with my coach. And then I would, carry that on into practice and really kind of just getting the basics of the swing solid.
Sure.
If you're a golfer, you got to have good fundamentals, no matter who you are. I mean, all the best players in the world have really solid fundamentals. You can't get around it. And if you're a little off with that, it's just going to be an unstable base for building a swing around. So
you basically knew, you just kind of came to the point like, all right, I might be able to scrape it around in college, but at some point I have to get a lot better if I want to get to where I want to go.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And we had the benefit of, the Houston Open, Shell Houston Open at the time anyways, was at our home golf course. So we had the benefit every year of having the best players come in, because during that time it was the week before the Masters.
Of course, so, yeah, that was that whole
everybody
was,
wants to play.
Yeah,
exactly. So you got to see how those guys played your home golf course and how you played it. Now, to be fair, the golf course played completely differently. When they were there, it was super firm, and guys are hitting balls where you never get to, et cetera, et cetera. But you could just see the differences, and it was eye opening. But one of the best things that could have happened, really, because it inspired me to be better. And then you just realize, like, damn, I got to work a lot harder to get there.
Oh yeah,
and kind of lit a fire underneath me. So that was cool.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned playing the Canadian Amateur team. You got to play the RBC Canadian Open a couple times. Before I kind of pivot towards what you're doing now and trying to get yourself onto the PGA Tour full time, I think anyone that follows amateur golf that knows that there's 2 rounds of stroke play at the U.S. Amateur, and then it kind of dissolves into the top 64 that then go to match play. Just like college basketball, you win, you move on, you lose, you're out, and just it's a knockout stage. You get to the final 2, but it never ends up where you have 64 players that finish in these top 64 spots, and then off we go to match play. There's always a playoff. Now, sometimes it's an easy one. Maybe it's a 16 for 11 spots, something where the odds are kind of in your favor that you're going to make it, but there are some times where it's just absolutely lopsided. And you were in, let's see, so you've played in multiple U.S. Amateurs, but in 2016 at Oakland Hills, you were in one of these playoffs. It was a 23 for 8. And looking at some of the names in that playoff, or names that a lot of listeners will recognize, whether it's Maverick McNeely, former number 1 amateur in the world, or Scott Harvey, one of our recent guests on the podcast, or Stuart Hagestad, another recent guest on the podcast, both U.S. mid-amateur champions. You get into this, I believe +2 was the number. What is that like the night before, and then how does that just structurally and logistically, how does that playoff happen?
Yeah, so I guess the night before the situation you're in. You pretty much you got to make a birdie. And I guess they told us it was going to be on the 10th hole of the alternate course. I can't remember if it's the north or the south, but it was a par 3. And so, really you're just kind of getting yourself psyched up to be like, okay, well, I know what I need to do, so I'm just going to go do it. And, I sleep great that night? Probably not amazing, but you show up and you do your full routine, and I believe we went off in foursomes. And, the driving range is right beside the tee there, so you could just see everybody's shots, and some guys are hooking it in the bunker, some guys are hitting it close, some guys are, whatever, hitting a mediocre shot. And so I remember going there, getting the distance, and I think it was like 170 something yards or whatever it was. It was an 8-iron, and I was practicing that shot on the range over and over and over again. And then it came time. The pin was in the back left there. But I was playing with another guy. He gets up there and he hits it, probably like somewhere between 6 to 10 feet. So I'm like, okay, well, I just saw a nice shot in there. I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to bust this thing right at it. I'm going to make 2. I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to stick around and have to, dick around with playing more holes or whatever. I want to go back to bed. So I got up there and hit it to like, I don't know, 5 feet or something like that. Buddy from Vanderbilt gets in there, knocks his putt in, throws a nice fist pump. So I'm like, all right, sick. I gotta top that. And hung in there, hit, knocked down my little left to righter, threw a little hammer fist pump, and went right back to bed. It was, it was a pretty cool experience because you're right. There was a lot of good players in there. I've gotten to know Maverick McNeely a little bit, and he's another former hockey player, by the way.
Oh yeah,
he grew up he wanted to play in the show too, but not all dreams come true, Mav? But what do you do? I mean, the thing is, when you're battling for the final seed, you're going to get some player that's playing great. Yeah. So I drew John Oda in the first round, and he probably finished like top 5 or something like that in stroke play. He's obviously playing great. Oakland Hills is an unbelievably good golf course, by the way. But yeah, that was a cool day. I actually aced the 9th hole in match play there. It was right in front of the clubhouse. That's probably one of my favorite golfing memories. 9's pretty iconic hole. I mean, we were playing it from the up deck, but I knock it in for an ace, and everyone starts chanting "Go Leafs, go!" when you're in Detroit, which
nice.
Isn't really a thing. And then John actually gets up there and hits it to a foot, and you're like, nice shot, but on we go. The whole playoff deal. I think when you're in that scenario, you just got to be, okay, I'm not going to outlast people here by making a bunch of pars. I need to go make something happen. I got to hit one close. And
absolutely. I'm glad you're able to recount that story, because I see those all the time. I think a lot of people see those and just curious how those things happen and what is the mindset going into a playoff like that. But you bring your amateur career to a close, and like you said, played solid at Houston, had some wins, All-American. When did you kind of start formulating your plan of your venture into professional golf? Because as many people know, there's all different directions you can go. You can, go to Q school. You can go over to Europe. You can play these other tours. There's plenty of different directions. Some are, who's to say which one's right, which one's wrong? It all depends on what fits for you. But when did you start putting together your plan to turn professional, and how did you originally start?
I knew all through college that I was going to turn pro. I always thought to myself, okay, I've put this much time into it. I owe it to myself to give it a shot, because if I don't, I'm going to regret it the rest of my life. But if you'd asked me, come senior year, like, oh, Blair, what's your pro career path going to look like? Oh, I'm going to waltz through Q school, probably win it, get onto the web, probably win a couple times, maybe even get, right up to the PGA Tour right away, go make millions of dollars, and life's going to be good. I had this path in my mind that, it was just, I guess, I didn't realize how good, first of all, everybody is, because everybody in professional golf is good.
Right.
There's only 156 jobs. I mean, there's probably 200 and something guys with status,
right?
But only 156 guys teed up every week, and there's probably, like, realistically, guys that could play out there. There's probably less than 1,000, that could do it, day in, day out. Have these guys are going to the tour, so. But then there's thousands of guys trying to do it, and when they play well, golf's a game. It's, if you're playing well, you can beat anybody, right?
Sure.
So, there's a lot of good players out there. So I guess, when I was unsuccessful at my first web.com Q school, I kind of had to take a step back and be like, okay, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to live, et cetera, et cetera. And I decided, okay, I'm going to go to PGA Tour Canada Q School. That would have been in the spring of 17, maybe. And I got some status there and got into the first event and top 20'd into the next event. And then kind of, at that point, I was in for the rest of the season. So I played full season out there. Didn't really play any good. I mean, I had a chance to win in Ottawa. I played with Kramer Hickok in the final round when he was having a pretty deadly season up there. And then, I didn't keep my card. So I kind of had to step back again and be like, okay, now what am I going to wait on Canada again for next year? So then I decided, all right, what are the other options? You can go to China, you can go to Europe, you can go to Latin America. For whatever reason, Latin America just kind of stuck out. I studied Spanish a little bit in university, so I've got the basics. I can get around with a little bit of Spanish, and so I went down to Q School in Bogota, Colombia, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, by the way. I think everybody sees Narcos and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to Colombia. But then you actually get down there and you're like, wow, this place is unbelievable. It's beautiful. Everybody's friendly. Like, it's like where I was completely safe. I never felt like I was in danger. What a great place. I love Bogota. I finished second in Q School there, which got me full status. Then by playing out there, I played good enough to parlay that into some Canada status, because it's like you earn. I went to Q School as well. I got it was like top 25 on the Latin Older Merit at that point, which got you another type of status on Canada. So I played a few events out there. I guess that was last summer. There's the path to pro golf. It could literally be anywhere, because, I've got buddies that are over in China now playing that you never thought would go over there. Guys playing on the Challenge Tour or over in Asia. And there's just so many different places to go. And, is one better than the other? I don't know. That's really up for debate. What's the path to the PGA Tour? Via the web.com tour. How do you get to the web.com tour? Canada, China, Latin America.
So it all kind of filters down where there's many different ways to do it. But ultimately, it kind of feels like you're just kind of finding a place to keep your game sharp when it comes time for you to do web Q School. Is that pretty much correct? Because you're not making money. I'm assuming you're not making really anything on any of these tours. It's literally just, can I stay afloat for another year until it's time for the direct path, which is Web Q School?
Yeah, man. I mean, like the blunt truth of it is the vast majority of guys playing on the developmental tours, they're just broke and trying to keep their head above water. There's going to be guys that got some nice sponsorship money and then parlayed that by playing well, and you can definitely make some money for sure, especially on the mini tours. There's avenues to make a little bit of money, et cetera. But nobody is rich by any means.
Right.
Like everybody kind of has this image of a pro golfer. It's so sexy to see, guys in the GQ magazine, guys like Rory and Tiger. And I mean, for sure, if you're in the top 25 in the world, or even like, keeping your card on the PGA Tour, you're making bank, no doubt. But they don't see the years and years of grinding, eating peanut butter sandwiches and, just trying to make rent before that. It's, and you're right when you say you're just kind of trying to stay afloat until, you get your opportunity. And the thing with golf is things can change so fast. Like, what if you Monday qualify and do a PGA Tour event, top 10, boom, all of a sudden you've just made 100 and something thousand and you're into the next week. What if you play decent there? Boom, all of a sudden you've made enough FedEx points to get into web finals. And what if you play all right there? Then boom, you're right on the PGA Tour. So things can happen really, really quickly. in pro golf. It's not like, minor league baseball or something like that, where you're kind of in the system, be like, okay, we're going to get 2 years in AA, a year in AAA, and then maybe you'll get called up. It's, things can change quickly.
Anyone that follows golf knows recently Max Homa, and then, right before the Masters, Corey Connors, another Canadian that literally,
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. Can you make it as a professional golfer if you are not 100% all in and this is all you want to do in life?
No, it's too difficult, man. Like when you're trying to get to the PGA Tour, more than likely there's going to be much more lows than there are highs. And what's going to carry you through those lows is, for me, it's my faith, but also just your belief that that's what you're supposed to be doing. If you're dipping your toe in something else, and like a lot of times I'll meet some guys that are like, yeah, I'm just going to try out pro golf for a few years and see what happens. It's like, buddy, save your money. Like, you're going to have to beat guys like me and guys in my position where we're all in. Like, you're not going to beat us because we need it more than you do.
Right.
And, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I haven't met too many guys that have made it that haven't been 100% in on pro golf, but it's got to be something you give your whole life to, and that means sacrificing a lot of things, sacrificing relationships, sacrificing, things that you do, putting in the work that nobody else wants to do. You've got to put in that work. And
if someone's coming up to you that's it's their first year on the Latin America tour, or you bump into a younger guy at a mini tour event, and you kind of sense that they are not completely committed, is there maybe a go-to anecdote or some story that you could share with them about what your life is like that would give them pause, that you purposely hold back because you don't want to crush some guy's dream?
It was funny. So I played in U.S. Open locals about like a week ago, I guess. Yeah. I don't even know what today is. But so I'm playing with these two guys. One guy is a pretty good player at University of Oklahoma. The other guy, really nice guy. He played college golf, and he told me he didn't really have much aspirations past college golf, which is totally fine. You go to college, you get an education, you get to play some golf, and yada, yada, yada. But I was kind of telling them, like, okay, well, boys, this is what my last weeks looked like. I was in Cordoba, Argentina. So, you fly from Cordoba to Buenos Aires, then, hop on a plane for 12 hours, Buenos Aires to Dallas. Then I had to fly from Dallas to Phoenix. And so that's all from Monday to Tuesday. I land at 7 a.m. Tuesday. I pack up my place on Tuesday, pack up my room, move out, drive my ass off to Amarillo, Texas, 10 and a half hours, hop out of the car, get in at 10 p.m., go play this tournament blind, shoot 69, miss by a couple, get in the car, drive 25 hours back up to Canada from there. So that's a grand total of 35 hours, especially by yourself. So going crazy. Get back, sign up for a mini tour event, hit a bucket of balls on Saturday, go out, play this golf course half blind. I got there the day before and drove around and saw it a little bit, and then played 2 days. And, it's just the constant moving pieces. There's so much more than just playing golf. You've got to be super dedicated to want to do it. If you don't have that internal drive, that laser vision focus, that, okay, this is what I'm doing, it's not going to work out for you, bud. Yeah. And, but guys learn pretty quick, whether it's they play with somebody that's just flat out really good and they say, ooh, I don't have that, or they struggle enough, or they're losing a ton of money, etc. If you're a competitor, you love the grind, you love to work hard, you don't mind getting kicked in the face a little bit by the game, then maybe you have a chance. But if you're looking for a cushy life, pro golf, probably not for you, bud.
I'm sure you have tons of them, but let's just see if you can pick one Give me a horror story about Latin America tour. I mean, just share your ridiculous travel you just went through the last week or two. But you've played all over Latin America. You have the language barrier. You have the currency barrier. You have lodging issues, transportation issues, course conditions, all that stuff. Pick one. I'm sure you have plenty, but give me of anyone thinking about it and they wanted to see what the life is really like. Give me a story from the Latin America tour. And then we're going to tell a good story about the Waste Management. We're going to go from this to the show. So we're going to show a little bit of the dark side. Then we're going to go really to the the luxury side.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like we're scaring people into golf right now. It's like, don't play golf, dude.
Are you sure you want to play pro golf?
Yeah, come on. Yeah, welcome to the show, boy.
I hate to discourage people, but it is a grind, man.
No, but I think the thing is
rainbows and butterflies.
No, but Blair, the reason that I really wanted to talk to you and I really wanted you on the podcast is because, like Corey Connors, okay, they're seeing the Monday that he Mondayed into the Texas Open, and they're seeing the great story and seeing him play the Masters and all that great stuff, but I want to really, everyone sees it. I want to kind of focus on next year, you can be the next Max Homa or Corey Connors. And when they see you Mondaying into a tournament and seeing great success, I mean, that's going to be you next year. But I'd like to show what it takes to get to that point and how you have to stay mentally tough to the point where you're like, wow, this is what I had to do.
It's cool. I've known Corey for quite a long time. Just growing up playing junior golf against him, we've been friends for a while. And that guy's worked extremely, extremely hard. He's been very good for a long time. I mean, he won the World Junior, before even going to Kent State, and had a pretty dang good career. And it's really cool to see that. I guess going back to Latin America tour, I guess it's kind of a funny story. But I guess in Latin America, you get what you pay for, right? If you're looking at an Airbnb that's $40 and, it looks good online, whatever, maybe, just maybe, it's a little too good to be true. So we were in Costa Rica, where we were at, it was so gorgeous. Just what an unbelievable time. And we're at the beach. I was staying at the resort. There's a few people staying at an Airbnb. And there's a group of us that were at the beach, and we go back to their place. And this girl, she hops in the shower, and, I'm kind of waiting on her I had to get into the bathroom or whatever. And so she gets out, and she goes into her room, and I'm in the bathroom, and I hear this absolute shriek, just terror. I'm like, oh, what's going on out there, So I get out, and, we all kind of rush into the room, and she's standing there, just got nothing on, and she's holding her finger, and she's like, I got bit by something. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, first of all, cover yourself up, and she's like, I got stung by a scorpion. Like, what?
What?
So I guess some scorpion had crawled into her towel and stung her. And so I'm tasked with the job to, find this scorpion and kill it. This is exactly what I want to do. And
did you use a 6-iron for that or 7-iron?
I used a foot. I just stomped it right out, just like an absolute alpha male,
The old foot wedge. Okay, no problem.
But yeah, so I've got this picture of this, and it wasn't a big scorpion. It was probably only this inch or whatever the size between a knuckle on your finger or something like that. But it was the first time I'd seen that. So now we're like, okay, sweet. She just got stung by a scorpion. What do we do now? Was it a poisonous scorpion? I don't know. So you get on Google and you're trying to find pictures of what the scorpion looks like. You're like, do we need to take her to a hospital? What do we do? And we wound up going over to this store, this convenience store or whatever. And I took a picture of it. I'm like, hey, is this scorpion dangerous? And the lady working there was like, no, she'll be fine, whatever. So I'm like, all right, sweet, I'm out of here. Like, take care. And I'm pretty sure she wound up being all right. Yeah, she definitely did. She's totally fine. She's totally fine, everybody. And I went back to my nice cushy resort, and, there was no worries of scorpions or anything like that. But, to me, I looked at that. I'm like, okay, like, if it's going to cost me an extra, whatever, $50 a night, but I know something like that's not going to happen, that is worth it.
Yeah, so, I would say so.
That's kind of my funny story. I mean, another time, like, my flights got all messed up in Quito, Ecuador, and I didn't wind up getting into town until like Wednesday at 2:00. And, you're playing 8,000 feet, one of the hardest courses of the year. It's, super tight. And I think I played like 7 holes in a practice round with like 3 different caddies. And I wound up finishing second that week. So that was kind of cool. You never know when a good week's going to happen. I think I showed up with like no expectation. I was just kind of happy to be there. But yeah, the travel can get hectic, and you never know when you get stung by a scorpion.
So you mentioned, the setting expectations. You didn't have many going into that term in Quito, ended up playing well. As we stated earlier in the episode, you Mondayed into this year's Waste Management Open, and every week someone's going to Monday in. You got to choose super low number, but I don't think people truly understand. Okay, great, you're in the tournament, and I think it further, I hate to keep going back and forth on dropping the name Corey Connors, but for you to Monday and then win a tournament, you've played in the Canadian Open before, knowing you're going to be in it as a member of the Canadian amateur team. What is the kind of the experience playing at a PGA Tour event after you Monday qualify in? How much are you behind the 8 ball in that situation?
Definitely. Okay, so if you're in the tournament and you can show up Monday morning and go out and play 9 or 18, and then Tuesday either play 9 or 18, you kind of set your schedule how you want to prepare. And then if you're not in the Pro-Am on Wednesday, it's just like a little practice day, and it's kind of you do what you like and you prepare the way you want. When you play the Monday, there's the whole, the adrenaline high and whatnot to actually getting in. And then in my case, I had to play again on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So by the time I got out to the golf course there, get registered, get your car or whatever, because you had to have a car to get in and out of the parking lot because it's just a gong show. It wasn't until just after midday that I got to get on the golf course. And by that point, you're behind everybody, and the sun, it's still early in the year, so the sun's going down. And so I only got to play 12 holes in the practice round, which isn't ideal if you're trying to see a PGA Tour style golf course and then prepare. But, that's just kind of the way it is, right? So, like, if you're in the tournament, you kind of set your schedule, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get out there and learn this golf course. Maybe your caddy walks around for an additional 9 or whatever, versus, when you're just in at the last minute and you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I go? Where's my locker? All those little hoops you got to jump through. You're definitely behind the 8 ball, no doubt about it. But at the same time, you're kind of fired up to be there, so you don't care as much. But in terms of preparation, it's not ideal. And there really is to see what Corey did by Monday qualifying, and then I don't know if he had to play Tuesday or not, but get out, maybe zip around the golf course one time. I don't know if he'd ever played it. I'm not going to be in the Pro-Am Wednesday, and then get out and keep playing well. Just dealing with the emotional roller coaster of, okay, because I think he was in like a 6-for-1 playoff or something like that. To get through that, it's to refocus and be like, okay, I got a job to do. It's pretty impressive to see, and I think when you're when you show up on Tuesday afternoon, you're definitely behind the 8 ball, but I guess it's better to be behind the 8 ball than not on the table at all, you know?
At that point, are you there in the mindset of, I got to make something happen this week? This is a very, you never know when this opportunity is going to come back again. I need to really kind of go after it. Or are you looking at it as, hey, I'm fortunate to be here. Let me just soak it in. Any future experience or this will be a future learning experience for me. Like,
yeah. So I would say when I got there, I was like, okay, let's make something happen this week, because you're right. Those opportunities don't come around very often, and Monday qualifying is very difficult. So I showed up with the mentality of I really want to play well, and I want to compete. I know I'm good enough to compete at this level. And then, come, the back 9 of the second round, when I wasn't really playing that good, then it kind of shifted. Okay, all right, what can I learn here? I mean, it's not like you give up on it by any means. Like, that's just not in my DNA. I don't do that. I think I did a good job really reflecting after the tournament and be like, okay, why are these guys here and I'm here? What's making the difference? And, I think a lot of it when you've been on the PGA Tour for a couple of years and it's just another day on the job, you don't notice as much stuff, I think for me, when I was out there, I mean, the crowds are crazy. I mean, crazy in a good way. You've got to love it. If you don't like that environment at the Waste Management, man, like, pack it in, go home.
Yeah.
Job's not for you. But I think, when I looked back on it, I saw how I was distracted by outside sources. The things going on kind of got into, I couldn't quite be mentally present. So what I did to kind of fix that is I went and did this crazy 10-day silent meditation retreat, which is it's called Vipassana. Basically,
where was this?
So they have Vipassana centers all across the world, really. Where I went up in Alberta. This place is like 3 hours east of Calgary. So you're going out towards Saskatchewan in the middle of nowhere. Goodyear, I think it was called. Yeah. Anyways. But the whole deal was to really, disassociate from your ego, which your ego is kind of like a false sense of self, and be able to be mentally present. And, meditation, I mean, if you look at the research on it, it is one of the best ways to, calm the mind and empty the mind, but also to be present and see things for how they really are, not as you would like them to be, I guess.
Okay.
And this 10-day deal I did was, you'd wake up at 4:30, meditate from 4:30 to 6:30. Then there'd be like a breakfast and a little nap, and then you'd do another, meditation sitting from 7 to 8, and then one from 8 to 11. And, it wound up, what the schedule was, you would meditate for 10 hours a day, and you're in this group in the meditation hall, the Dhamma hall, and there was probably 60 people, but you cannot talk to anybody. I had a roommate. You can't talk to anybody. That's kind of like, they call it noble silence. And the whole deal is, okay, if you're trying to get into your mind and get into your psyche, like, you can't be having conversations. You don't have your phone. You have zero contact with the outside world. You're stuck with yourself, man. And
wow.
It's eye-opening. And it is so damn hard. Like, I remember day 3, I'm just planning to, like, make my escape. I'm like, okay, how am I going to get back to Calgary? How am I going to get my phone back? The craziest things come into your mind, but, that's just your ego talking, and that's not you. That's not what you want to do. That's what your ego wants to do. And you grind through it. You breathe through it, really. And, Yeah. So kind of going back from the waist to, that's what I figured I needed to fix, kind of my self-awareness or my mental state and how I could be present. That's kind of what I did. And I also looked at it from like a practical standpoint. Okay, what skills do these guys physically have that I'm lacking? And it came down to, I need to hit more fairways flat out. You can't be playing from the rough out there. When it's firm and the rough's long, you got to hit the ball in the fairway. If you hit it in the fairway, especially at TPC Scottsdale, if you hit it in the fairway, you can score. But if you're playing from the rough all day, good luck, bud. You're probably going to make some bogeys, and it's going to be a long day for you. And just like the little minute differences, like lagging the ball to 2 feet instead of 4 feet or whatever. I mean, I remember this lag putt Carlos Ortiz hit on 17. It was like 100 feet. And like, it was one of those putts where you could putt this ball in the water, no problem.
Yeah, that's the drivable par 4 right after the crazy par 3 where everyone's hitting driver 3-wood and what was a pin back left, and he was just barely on the front of the green.
Exactly, it's all the way in the back left, and he just casually gets up there and rolls it up to like 3 feet. I'm like, I'm looking around at these thousands of people. I'm like, I don't think there's anyone here that realizes how damn good that was. But that's part of the gig, that's what you got to do. And, so I kind of looked at it from all different angles. Like, okay, from a mental aspect, where do I need to be better? From a physical aspect, where do I need to be better? And I think I took a lot away from that experience that's going to serve me long term.
All right, so you get the taste of the PGA Tour life at the Waste Management this year. You mentioned you tried for U.S. Open, didn't get through local. So just to kind of get an idea of what your plans are for the rest of the year and what it is moving forward that you're looking to do to get you ready for Web Q School, can you just briefly run through for the listeners? So we're recording this basically the middle of May. And, what does the next 3 to 4 months look like before you get to, Web Q School?
So the Latin America Tour breaks in the summer. That's just the way they designed it. So this summer I'm going to play a bunch of mini tour stuff back up here in Canada. I'm hopeful that I'll get a couple PGA Tour Canada starts. But basically in this season, you're just trying to keep your game sharp, and you're trying to, make some money, trying to stockpile it away. And then, like you said, get ready for web.com Q School in the fall, because that's where things can happen. You go to web.com school, and it's kind of like the job interview.
Sure.
That's where you can really get to where you want to go. So for the next couple months, it's money making season, and I might play some state opens, some stuff like that. I'm actually literally today is kind of where I'm piecing together my schedule. I'm trying to get all my loose ends tied up, and I'll be going forward. Like I said, hopefully get a few McKenzie Tour starts, but just continue to work and prepare for the fall. The Latin Tour will probably start up. They haven't released the schedule yet for the fall, but I imagine it'll start up in September at some point. That's when it was last year. Pretty good chance I'll be going back down there for that. Hopefully get on through Q School and move on to bigger and better things.
That's awesome, Blair. Well, I know that our listeners really do appreciate you being so transparent and so honest about what the life is like and what you're trying to do moving forward. Love this. I'm never gonna forget the scorpion story. That one's definitely an all-timer. So definitely we will follow you on social media. I will put the links to all of your social media channels in the show notes of this episode. And wish you the best of luck moving forward. And I know everyone will be kind of paying attention during Web Q School time, and hope we can do this again soon.
Yeah, I'd love that, Ben. That'd be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll have some good stuff to talk about again, and hopefully not any more scorpion stories.
No.
But
next year we're talking about Web and PGA Tour stories.
I like that. That sounds good to me.
And there you have it, another great episode here at the Back of the Range. Special thanks to Blair Hamilton for joining us this week. Mojo is activated for you, sir. Good luck the rest of the season. I hope you all enjoy the U.S. Open. Don't forget, go to our Instagram page at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. We have a contest. We're going to give away some free stuff to the winner. So go ahead and take care of that before the first round starts. And as always, we will see you again next week for another episode here at the Back of the Range.